We have a quorum on the floor.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Newark Municipal Council special meeting and public conference meeting. Madam President, in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice has been provided to the Star-Ledger, the Jersey Journal, and to the public at large establishing the date, time, and location of this meeting. May I have a roll call of those present, please?
Amador, absent. Gonzalez.
Present.
Present.
Osborne.
Present.
McCallum, absent. Quintana.
Here.
Ramos.
Here.
Here.
Madam President, on the
Councilman Amador is now present.
agenda, on second reading, public hearing, and final passage, 6 PSNFA is an ordinance adopting the First Amendment to the Newark's River Public Access and Redevelopment Plan. Is there anyone present that wishes to be heard on this ordinance?
No one appearing, Mr. Clerk.
No one appearing? Motion to...
Sorry, Ms. Zach is appearing.
I think there's a lot of people here who want to speak. I'm Nancy Zach. I live on Walnut Street in the Ironbound section. First of all, we have to say that this is a really bad time to have a hearing on something this important. It should have been put to a night meeting. Secondly, I'm going to submit to the clerk the names of senior citizens from my neighborhood who are against this MX3 and Riverfront 3. I will have to say that probably 85% of my neighbors do not know this is going on because there hasn't been any information put out in Portuguese or Spanish. I would like to say that perhaps the ward should bid on these big buildings like we're doing for Amazon, and whoever wins can take it in their ward. This zoning proposal has not been done in a way in which community could participate at all. There was one hearing that the mayor called with 3 days' notice, that is ridiculous. It's disrespectful to people. This zoning amendment creates a wall between the river and the community all around the city of Newark. We just got the river back. Now we're going to have a riverfront park for rich people who will be able to live in these high-rises because no one else will be able to afford it. Remember when the FBI building was put in there? And later on, we all said, oh, that was a really bad mistake, putting that building there on the riverfront, where no one could approach it, no one could get near the river because of that for a while. That was Al Fayella's big mistake, and this today is going to be your big mistake. This is a terrible decision for Newark to put these giant buildings walling off the river, all along the river, all around Central and Eastward, and on top of some of the shady land deals. The Central Ward land deal was the most secret thing that we've ever seen in Newark, and it's totally untransparent, it's totally wrong, and we ask that you really do this over. And the reason it's wrong is because nobody was involved in it. Nobody except someone sitting someplace in a back office created this. This should not go through today, and I hope that Councilman Amador is not the only one who says defer it and put it to a nighttime meeting. Start the process over. There is nothing that means that you have to do this today. There is no pressing time issue on this kind of a zoning ordinance. It's a major change in our city. It should not be done. If it was being done in each of your wards, you would not let this proceed without adequate community involvement and voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning. My name's Anchor West, 60 Union Street. I'm asking you to vote no on this as well. This is unfair and disrespectful. You're pulling the people's master plan away from us. The master plan was worked out and would have accommodated for transit-oriented development, whatever you're trying to achieve with this. It looks like you are weighing this heavily in favor of 3 businesses and disregarding what the public wants. You should know that this is wrong from the opposition that you have witnessed in the last 3 months from your petitions, letters, phone calls, and no public notice, no proper public notice of this, a daytime meeting where nobody can attend. Vote no. Anyway, on a day when we should be celebrating one of Newark's own, somebody who was instrumental in creating the Riverfront Park, winning a MacArthur Genius Grant Award. And I don't know if you know who I'm talking about. I'll say Damon Rich, who was a former planner of Newark, spoke very strongly against what you are doing, excluding the public from the planning process, and casting a dark shadow on the riverfront, going way out of scale in the Ironbound, using Al Fayella's precedent of this ungraceful, boxy buildings that were built in 1990 along the riverfront that are a real blight to the neighborhood. They do not encourage any pedestrian activity. They actually hinder it. And please vote no on this. And let's go back to the People's Master Plan.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning. I'm John Goldstein, 171 Van Buren Street. Newark has the chance to be the first city in the country to come up with a model of development without displacement. It's hard. No other city's been able to do it. But what we have going for us, we have a few things going for us. One, we're getting in early, just as the market is heating up. So we have the chance to put policies in place that will protect the current residents as well as allow for development. One thing we do know is that a critical piece of being successful is going to be public input. We can make better zoning decisions, we can make better development decisions when residents are involved. That's why the original Riverfront Plan had so much public input as contrasted to this proposal, which has had virtually none. Developers certainly get their input. We know that there have been numerous meetings, phone calls, discussions with developers about this proposed change. It makes absolutely no sense that residents haven't been involved. So going forward, we've heard the mayor say that this process was flawed. We heard at the last council meeting some of you say that this process was flawed. We've heard the administration's taking some responsibility for it being a flawed process. So we should go back and have a process that's not flawed. And going forward, we should have no more zoning changes without engaging the public. You're going to end up with a better plan, better development, and the potential for Newark to set a new model in this country for development without displacement.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
My name is James Powell. I live in the Central Ward. I'm going to incorporate the former city planner's Genius Award into my comments, so you'll excuse me if I kind of go back and forth. As was mentioned, Damon Rich, who was the principal author of the original Newark's Riverfront Access and Redevelopment Plan, was this morning awarded what's commonly known as a Genius Grant or a Genius Award. This is known worldwide as one of the highest honors for creative people worldwide. So I'm going to switch to the citation this morning from the MacArthur Foundation's website. He was specifically cited for creating vivid and witty strategies to design and build places that are, and now I'm going to emphasize, more democratic and accountable to their residents. The amendment before you this morning has zero accountability to the residents and zero democracy. Remember, if I didn't mention, he was an employee of the city at the time. He's the principal author, I think I said, of this. And besides that, on this original plan, at the time, council people Ramos, Amador, Gonzalez, now Mayor Baraka, but then Councilman Baraka, Councilperson Crump, and Quintana also signed this document. Today's amendment makes a joke of the entire process. So back to Damon's citation. Trained as an architect, he is committed to enlivening bureaucratic systems and applies a democratic approach to a wide range of projects. The actual riverfront plan that you're intending to make a joke of this morning was also cited. He served as Chief Urban Designer and Director of Planning 2008 to 15 for Newark, New Jersey, as a city marked by decades of disinvestment and sustained by traditions of political activism. He worked with longstanding advocates like the Ironbound Community Corporation to begin transforming Newark's waterfront along the Passaic River with public parks, trails, and environmental installations, etc. So again, I'm just astounded by the disconnect between the work that was done a mere 4 years ago, putting us on the national map, and now, like I've told you before, on the world map, and the proposal before you today, which is almost a complete 180 from that democratic process. I'm also going to cite from the original proposal of 2013 that the councilman signed, that I mentioned, and that Damon authored. There was great detail and effort put into Appendix B, Community Stakeholder and Engagement Process. It was called the 2 cents for 2% plan to get Newarkers involved in the process. So they take excruciating pains to cite over 5,000 people that were engaged in the community event and over 30 different public sessions.
Thank you,
For
Mr.
today's
Powell.
zero.
Thank you.
Please defer this plan. Thank you.
Next speaker. No one, oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Thomas.
Good morning, Leonard Thomas, 22 Psalm Street. The whole concept of this high density makes sense in one way if we do intelligent planning. But this doesn't make sense when we're talking about 30 and 40-story buildings that would block out much of our riverside, that would keep people from enjoying the parks that we're building, that we know will help people to enjoy the things around the city. The whole concept of having our parks developed there is so that people can go there, they can recreate themselves, they can rest and renew their spirits, and yet we want to build a wall there that would keep people from getting there. With the high-density buildings that we're talking about doing, it would create a physical and mental barrier between the rest of the city and our parks. This would mean that people get the idea that they don't need to go there, they wouldn't be wanted there, and that's not a good thing. We started our park program to say that people should own this park. We should go back to the river, and now we're building a barrier to say, don't go there. That doesn't make sense. The whole concept of high density is good for businesses. For residents, it doesn't make sense. Your own predecessors did studies and showed studies where these high-density buildings are not a good thing. They're not good mentally. They're not good socially. It engenders a lot of problems with the people who live there. Yet we come back and we decide because these new people have money, it's good. It's something we have to push through. We're going to spend a lot of resources building these buildings up, and then they're going to be empty. People will move away like they did before, and then we'll be left with these hulks that we'll still have to support. Our infrastructure right now is not keyed up for this. We're going to have to make a lot of changes to things like the schools, the traffic, and everything else. It's just not set up for this. And it's going to be a burden on the city more than a help. Are these people going to bring jobs? I really wonder. Are they going to help us develop and move into the future in a way that we thought about? No. This seems to be a poorly thought out plan. We spent time with looking into the future, with doing the master plan before, with planning what we should do with Newark, where Newark should go. And now all of a sudden we jump out with this because somebody with money says, I can build it if you give me some money, if you give me a tax abatement, if you give me. If you take away from the city who stood the test of time here in Newark and do these things, we'll do this for you. That doesn't make sense. Looking across the river, they have the same idea, and you find their projects are not being filled, and we're going to the same market base to pull people in. That doesn't make sense. It's not going to work. We're going to be wasting our time, our money, and our energy, and we're going to be taking away from what we think the city should be doing and where it should be going. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Tom Banker, I'm here on behalf of Edison Properties at 100 Washington Street in Newark. It's hard for me to believe, but it's 43 years ago that I first walked into Newark City Hall to become part of the city administration. Throughout those 43 years, I've heard over and over again about the advantages of the city of Newark, its great mass transit, its higher education, its airport and seaport, the cultural opportunities, and the ability to have high-value employment in downtown. Newark is finally starting to realize the benefit of that potential, and the types of changes that you're contemplating are totally consistent with taking full advantage of the advantages that Newark offers. This is the way in which you turn that potential into accomplishment. Every city that has good mass transit maximizes the value of that transit by providing density close to the transit locations. Newark has not had that kind of utilization of its mass transit. This will take advantage of that. And far from blocking the waterfront, what this project will do, what these zoning changes will do, will be to provide a population for the waterfront. There's plenty of examples around this area. You can look at downtown Jersey City. You can look at downtown Hoboken. You can look at Battery Park City, where there are very tall buildings, high density, and yet very high utilization of waterfront and a great deal of attractiveness. The idea that these buildings won't draw, or that this density won't draw, certainly is belied by what's going on across the river in Harrison.
Morning.
I work with the city of Harrison on their project, and I can tell you that every building that's been opened has been rented in its entirety within 5 or 6 months. And they're now up to about 3,000 units that have been added to the town of Harrison, and they're continuing to build. That is a real market. Newark is actually more attractive than Harrison because of its cultural advantages, the advantages of the Ironbound, the advantages of downtown, the advantages of more than just a path stop. So these buildings and this kind of density will certainly be something that Harrison will worry about. You will be a tough competitor for what's been a success story there. I think that, I've been very happy to be part of the city's comeback for over all the years, and I think we're now at the point where we can really take full advantage of all of those assets and turn Newark into the center of the state as it deserves to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Morning, Daniel Wiley, 42 William Street. I want to, not only was the process for this kind of disrespectful to the community,
Ren.
but folks keep talking about where this worked at, cities this worked in. Everybody names Hoboken, Jersey City. We talk about places like Brooklyn. Actually, you can name any post-industrial city across the nation. What this city is failing to say is that most of these cities are unaffordable right now. Newark, as we all know, is not a very affluent city. We have a lot of residents here who can't afford to live in these buildings. Although IZ was passed and they put in, a couple of affordable units in there, what's going to happen to the rest of the neighborhoods? What's going to happen to Ironbound? What's going to happen to the surrounding streets around there where you already have studio apartments going for $1,500 to $1,800 and one bedroom's going over $2,000? What's going to happen to the rest of the city? Who has answers for that? So I would just ask that we have more community involvement in this, or you defer it, or you just say no, vote no to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Council. My name is Tanisha Garner, 55 Oxford Street. Everyone pretty much said the same thing. Stick with the original plan. It's up to us to create that change and to work together. And especially if you build up to 30 stories, you have to realize that would be detrimental, especially to the fire department, because the ladder more than likely only goes up to 8 stories. So God forbid, if it was a fire that happened in the Ironbound, when you build along the riverfront, how are we going to have an evacuation plan? First, we don't even have an evacuation plan for the Ironbound that's already condensed in the area where we have major trucks that come through our area. We have the New Jersey energy plant. We also have Covanta. We also have refineries. We also have different chemical plants. And God forbid, if a tragedy happens, how are we going to get the rest of the Ironbound out? And especially, God forbid, if it happened, especially on during the rush hour, and we know that the traffic there is so consuming that it takes a long time for the residents to get out. So I think you should definitely think about the safety of the people, and don't think too much about the developers, and we come together as a whole. So instead of building up to 30 stories, why can't we just build up to 10 stories or 8 stories, and within the 10 to 8 stories, we could still build within the green infrastructure, and then be able to create jobs, especially when we have the Newark shops, that we'd be able to give the opportunity to the entrepreneurs to be able to be sustainable, that they could actually be able to be in a system where they could create jobs for our Newark residents, and be able to, especially with these new plans, that is, like they said, is based on how much money that the citizens come is not good. So how do we start be able to be sustainable for these families so they can start to create wealth, because that's a major concern. If we could start creating wealth, then we could be able to sit at the table and bargain and make proper deals for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. No one oh,
No one appearing. Motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Clerk.
Sorry about that.
That's all
I
right.
had to get out. Drew Curtis, 142 Union Street, Newark, New Jersey. Y'all have heard a lot today. There's a lot of issues with this proposal. There's issues on process and lack of community involvement. There are issues with ensuring that current residents aren't displaced and ensuring that there is access for people of all incomes to access these new buildings. These new buildings, without a strategy to do that, will create a Newport zone in Newark. That's an exclusive zone walling off the riverfront from the rest of Newark. Walls aren't a good thing. I think we know that from the federal administration right now. We don't want to be creating more walls. We want to build bridges and connecting all of Newark, connecting our great city together. I really, really urge you all to defer this ordinance. There's no rush. If there is a rush, please tell me what the rush is. I don't see a rush. Defer this ordinance. Let's get back to the table and continue discussions on how to make our city as great as possible. There still are a lot of confusion about what exactly this ordinance is doing. Councilman Amador, I'd like to thank you for getting some parcels removed that were supposed to be designated as an open space. I appreciate you for doing so. You've also talked about in the past removing some of the Iberia lots from this plan, but they're still in there. In fact, there's this dotted line around those properties, and no one knows what that means because there hasn't been the proper amount of community engagement. Also, there's a lot of people in this city that don't know this is happening, and that includes people at City Hall and other departments that I've talked to. So staff members in this City Hall don't know what's going on. That should tell you that this is a flawed process. Furthermore, our monolingual, Spanish-speaking and Portuguese-speaking brothers and sisters have been disenfranchised from this process entirely, as there's been no multilingual outreach. So please, please, I urge you all, defer this ordinance and let's continue civil discussions on this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another speaker? Mr. Clerk?
No other
Disappear.
speaker. Motion to close the public hearing and adopt. Council of the whole?
Madam President,
I'm sorry, Council? Yes.
even though I'm in extreme pain, I couldn't miss this meeting. And I couldn't miss this meeting because of one reason. If we all recall the MX3 proposal, it was after a community meeting that took place at Sport Club that open space, the setback on Ferry Street on the Iberia site, and the setback on McWhorter and Union, which were proposed at that meeting, was included on the plan. It was only after community participation that we were able to vote on a more sensible and proper plan, even though I voted no on that plan because we needed to continue to talk. This is going to be a game changer, not only alongside of the river, especially toward the Central Ward, but also on the Ironbound. There's one thing that puzzles me with both plans is the density that will be created by both plans will have a huge impact on the community. And smart growth calls for, when a plan like this or when two plans like this come forward to be voted on, we should also be concerned with impact fees, for example. What's going to be the impact on the local schools on this plan, especially in the Ironbound? Right now, we have one school that is almost out of commission, Lafayette Street School, and we have the other schools bursting with population. We haven't talked about the impact on fire. We haven't talked about the impact on police. We haven't talked about the impact on the infrastructure. And here we are ready to, no applause, please. And here we are ready to vote on a plan like this. Last Friday, I gave to the Director of Engineering a package related to impact fees. Every municipality in the country, when they foresee development taking place, the type of development that is going to occur in Newark, and let's be frank, this is going to take place either we like it or not, because especially of the location of the city. We talk about impact fees alongside of proposing plans like this. Every municipality, as small and as large as I see, has an impact fees package to be presented when something like this comes forward. So my position with MX3 was no, and my position with MX2 for reasons of principle, not because I do not agree with some of the development that is going to take place, because in the bottom line, this is America. And if you can take advantage of the opportunity that is given to you under a certain amount of constraints, and the constraints are created by us, we have that responsibility, then do it. And I think that development is going to take place, either we like it or not, as I said before, but it should have had more community development, more community involvement, and at the same time, we should have a package of impact fees, of an impact fee study to be done by the city related to this, because you can't create this massive development without looking at the impact that this will have in local communities such as the Ironbound. The Ironbound, as I said 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, is a jewel. And I feel privileged to represent that community. That community was built through a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, and I think it would be appropriate for those folks who are responsible for the way the community is today to be part of this process. They're not. Therefore, I'll vote no.
Is there any Councilwoman Chaney Phil Jenkins?
The one thing I want to talk about is the fact that the waterfront and there's a gentleman who worked for the city of Newark from 2008 and 2015. I can't see whether he's here or not, Damon Rich. And he was just awarded the MacArthur Foundation Award this morning. Excuse me. He was just awarded the MacArthur Foundation this morning for having engaged in a citywide coalition of neighborhood-based organizations in replacing Newark's unwieldy and outdated zoning and land use regulations with a user-friendly version, the first version in over 50 years, based upon goals of environmental justice and accountable development. Damon Rich is one of probably 30 people in the United States who has received this prestigious award at the age of 42 from the MacArthur Foundation this morning. I heard it on NPN, and it was based on what he did towards the waterfront. So from 2008 to 2015, they alleged that there were citywide coalitions of Newark-based organizations in replacing Newark's unwieldy and outdated zoning and land use regulations with a user-friendly version, the first in 50 years, based on the goals of environmental justice and accountable development. I would strongly suggest, as my council colleague from the East Ward suggested, that the impact fees, the same thing happened when we were building the arena. We had to talk about the impact fees. We had to talk about the safety. We had to talk about, when we talk about 30 stories or whatever, New York has those same heights, New Brunswick and all those other places, and we do need to make sure that we go back to the goal of what Mr. Rich was just awarded the MacArthur Foundation for, the infrastructure. We had to talk about the sewer lines being done, the turnaround and now put 30,000 toilets and sinks and things like that at the arena. We did that. But the community involvement, I don't believe stops today. I believe that based on Mr. Rich's being awarded the MacArthur Foundation Award for having done the riverfront plan with the community, that it should not stop, and that you talk about principle, Councilman Amador. Principle is not that because the development is going to happen, it means that we still have responsibility to make sure that it happens in a manner in which the community is involved and they are heard and that they are involved. Right now, if you go before the zoning board or the board of the planning board, there's variances being granted every day. All right, so when people champion the fact that it was the first time that the master plan was enacted and we had a master plan, it's still being sidestepped. So we need to go back to looking at the principle of, are we really involving the community at the level we should involve them, and not just saying that, you know, we're going to go ahead and vote for this. The reason why I am voting for it is because I know that the density is going to be an issue, but the young lady that came before us said something that is quite striking, as well as some other people who've made remarks. The inclusionary zone and issues regarding affordability is not going to be matched by the mere fact that 7,000 units that we have proposed and 20% set aside, where you're going to have 1,400 affordable units. I still ask the question, who is it affordable for? So at the end of the day, I think that we have a responsibility to continue Mr. Rich's work that he did from 2008, 2015, and include the public into this issue, and not turn around and vote for something and say that's the end of it. We still have to have community involvement, and we still have to have the community have vigorous conversation, debates, and bring to our attention, because government doesn't know everything, but more importantly, to acknowledge the fact that right now we have variances and setbacks and things like that are being done on a regular basis by commissioners that may not understand the impact. So if we have a community meeting, we should have several, and we should have them not just in the Ironbound, but as Mr. Rich did before and as the Ironbound did, have it throughout all of the city of Newark to have the conversation.
Anyone else?
Madam
Yes.
President, two things. One guarantee that I will continue to work and make sure that an impact fees plan comes before the City Council in the near future. Second, there will be community involvement regardless of what happens today on the Ferry Street Iberia site, as
Well,
it
did you
has
pull them out?
as it has been so far. At least with myself, there has been communication from the potential buyers with my office before the deal takes place, and I applaud them for doing that. They're very concerned about the type of character the area is going to look like with the new plan. And the third one is happy news. I met this morning with the director of the new housing authority, with Councilman Osborne, and we talked specifically about the row homes. And a plan is going to be put forth, is going to be put together with the involvement of the residents, and nothing will be done until a major public announcement is going to be done based on that plan. He gave us that commitment.
Councilman,
Anyone else?
a question.
Councilwoman?
When I left, the last time I separated it so that the East Ward, whatever your concerns were be able to be addressed. Were you able to pull the Iberia sites out?
No, they're included on that in this ordinance today.
So was there a reason why you weren't able to pull those sites out?
I never asked to pull those sites out. I was concerned with green space alongside of the river.
Right, you pulled
And
those
those
out.
lots were, there's a commitment from economic development that those lots will be for green space, for the continuation of the park up to Horizon Blue Cross. There were never any questions about the Iberia sites. So the Iberia sites are included on this ordinance here.
Any other comments? If not, Mr. Clerk, I would like to put my statement on the record. As I sat and listened to the conversation, I had a flashback. Some of you in this room may vividly remember the issue of whether or not to build Prudential Arena or to build a mid-sized convention center. The city was lopsided, actually, in its preference. But there were a few of us who believed that while a sports arena was great, that a mid-sized convention center would be of a more long-standing benefit to the city of Newark. We wanted to become a destination city. And so we vigorously debated with the then council. I was a citizen and I stood on that side of the podium. And I have never forgotten the sense of urgency that as a member of this community, we had no real input, no opportunity to have a conversation. I'm reminded of that time. And so my vote will not be yes, it will not be no. I'm going to abstain because that will give us time to have the conversation. I do believe that those of you who are looking at us right now for a judgmental state and determination, you have the right to speak. I'm never going to forget that I'm a citizen first and that I'm a councilwoman second. I would not be sitting in this seat if it were not for you. And so I will be supporting the community in this. This is not a permanent decision. It is what I am, what I intend to do on today. So to the clerk, through your chair, and to all of the respective entities who are part of this project, letters, memos, however you're able to reach a number of people and certainly the council member from the East Ward would set up a series of meetings so that those people who are living there, I live in the South Ward, so I won't feel the impact where those who live in the East Ward do. So I understand your passion. And hopefully, before too much time, we will be able to arrive at a decision. I'm all for development. Don't misunderstand anything. I'm really looking forward to the great future that this city has. But to vote for me to vote today, to vote yes, I think it would not be in the best interest of this city.
Madam President, can I just say one thing?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Good morning. I just want to say, we've been sitting up here for several meetings, and, this is not an issue that's affecting my ward, so I've been pretty much deferring to the council people from the East and the Central and listening to the residents from the community make impassioned pleas. And my concern is that over and over we keep hearing that the residents feel like they were not involved in the process. And, to me, I agree with my council colleagues. There's no way that I can support it, though we all are excited about the possibilities that can happen in Newark. And we want it to happen, but I just, in good conscience, can't vote for something where the residents feel like they were not included in the process.
Absolutely.
I don't know what the rush is, because once we come to a compromise, there's going to be jobs, construction jobs all over the place, and I don't see what the big rush is. Though I want to see skyscrapers in the building too. I go to Jersey City, you go to Hoboken, and I'm jealous. I want those buildings in Newark also, but it has to be with some community input and a compromise agreement. So.
Councilwoman Cheneyfield Jenkins.
Just for clarity's sake, let me just say something. Having been one of those council persons who sat here along with Councilman Amador, as well as Councilman Quintana, when it came down to the decision as to how the Port Authority money was going to be spent in regards to the arena, it was not whether or not it was going to be a convention center as opposed to an arena. Then Governor Jim McGreevey gave the council an ultimatum, as well as Mayor James. You're either going to take the money from the Port Authority and build an arena, or we're going to take the money and send it somewhere else. So it was not a choice as to whether or not we could build in a convention center or an arena. Jim McGreevey gave us an ultimatum at that day. Either you spend the money on the arena or the $250 million that was allocated from the monies that Port Authority stole from us intentionally over the years was not going to be utilized in the city of Newark.
Madam President?
Mr. Clerk, I'm sorry. Councilman Amador.
One of the good things about being around for a long time is that you see these exercises being done over and over again. And I remember clearly that Councilman Quintana and I were the only two votes against the building of the arena, but it's not because there was a contest between an arena and a convention center. It was precisely because of the fact that we were going to use $250 million of public money, again, of public money, in building basically a private entity. That was the only reason why. There was no contest between a convention center and an arena. The reason why Councilman Quintana and I voted against it was, and I told Mr. The two gentlemen were the owners of the arena in a private meeting that I would not support the arena because of the fact that they, as millionaires, they had the money to build the arena on their own. And they were asking for $250 million from public money that we got from the airport, from the Port Authority, to build the arena. That's the reason why. Not because there was a contest between a convention center and an arena.
President.
Thank you.
Just one clarity. The $250 million, when the lawsuit began with the Port Authority, the late Councilman Tucker, the purpose of that suit was to take that $250 because there was a reevaluation at the time, and we wanted to use that money towards the reevaluation. Then Governor McGreevey said no, it was not going to be utilized for the reevaluation. So then we were the ones who would champion that fight, that council at the time. Ron Rice, Councilman Carino, all of us would champion that when it began. And then to see that $250 million to be utilized on something else that was not, listen, we said at the time, if the builders want to do it on their own money, that's okay, but not on the taxpayers' money. And that's what we were protecting at the time. So I want to just put that on the record, that the intention of that, the money, the $250 million, was for the revaluation for the taxpayers. But who built at the time? Who built? And if you want to build, you build, but you pay your dime on that, not the taxpayers.
So, yes, sir.
We've had numerous hearings, and we can continue to have hearings about development in the city of Newark. As it's been stated numerous times, it's going to happen. It is not going to be stopped. While I'm in the South Ward, you say, well, what does that have to do with the South Ward? As council members, we here are tasked with balancing the budget, promoting smart growth, getting more police officers out on the street, more firefighters. We have a modern city. We do not live in a village. We do not live in a town. We live in a city, which is going to be developed. Park space does not help us stabilize the taxes. It does not help us hire more police officers, more firefighters. It's park space. So when we come up with new ways to try and get more revenue into the city, this is one of those ways. This is not a new idea. This has been on the books for 20, 30, 40 years, those of us who have been around. I respect those that came together to fight for more park space. But we're a city. We're not a park. And when people are losing their homes because we have to go up on taxes 2%, 3%, 7%, they continually ask us, what are you doing to stabilize our tax base? How are you going to hire more services, buy more trucks so we don't have to go out for private contracting? This is how we do it. The developers are going to pay for the upgrades. The developers are going to build the buildings, not city dollars. They're going to have to pay for the infrastructure improvements, not city dollars. What do we get in return? We get better housing stock, which is going to happen regardless. There's not a person in this room that's going to stop the development. It's going to happen. But are we going to make laws where out of that development we benefit, the residents benefit, that there's low income, that there's affordable housing? That's what the laws we have to pass, and that's what we're trying to pass.
No, there's no rebuttal.
Can I just...
No, there is
There's no rebuttal.
Excuse me.
There's no rebuttal.
Excuse me.
So we can have all...
Councilman,
Go ahead.
excuse me, there is no rebuttal. Officer, would you escort this gentleman to his seat? You may not speak. You are out of order. I'm sorry, you're out of order. No one else in this room.
In the South Ward, if we had this development, I would support it. We're going to have a $2 billion PATH train station. That may displace some individuals. For the most part, it won't, because most of that area is factories. But we need to welcome development in certain areas. 90% or 80% of this project is downtown, the Central Ward. If we can't develop downtown, where are we supposed to develop? You can't put these skyscrapers in the neighborhoods, and we're not trying to. They're along the water, not impinging upon the characteristic of the neighborhoods that are there now. No one is being moved. As has been said before, the majority of these lots are empty, or parking lots, are unused. No one's living there.
And it's not on the water.
Council, Mr. Clerk, council as a whole to adopt. Mr. Clerk?
Roll call?
Oh, is it something?
Amador?
No.
Can you say it
Yes.
afterwards?
Yes.
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 Osborne?
Yes.
Quintana?
Yes.
Ramos?
Yes.
Abstain. Councilman,
My concern is the community involvement or the lack of community involvement. And though we have a new executive director of housing, economic and housing, he's in the back. I'd like to hear what your plans are for community involvement and why it didn't happen. Well, you were not in a position before. But now, moving forward, we want to make sure that the residents are involved.
Thank you, Council President and esteemed members of the council.
Director, I do believe the councilman said you were not, involved in the details of this one, but going forward, that you would make it your business, to have more community input.
Can I, before the director speaks, can I say something? Even though I voted no, the ordinance that we approved today includes the properties in the Iberia site, which are in the East Ward. And that much I can guarantee you that, and it's not going to be because of me, they already made overtures to get the community involved. As a matter of fact, we had a community meeting scheduled to take place between the new owners or the potential new owners of the property of the site and the community, and that was canceled because of the fact that the deal had not been signed off on yet. As soon as it is signed off, I guarantee you that we will have a community meeting in the East Ward to make sure that there will be community input in terms of what goes on in there.
Thank you, Councilman. And to Councilman McCollum's question, Council President, we have made a commitment. You know, the mayor had a 4-hour meeting, which is unheard of, with the residents about 2 weeks ago, and acknowledged that while the process seemed to be flawed, that we would be correcting that moving forward. We want to have as many public engagement meetings as possible, partnering up with the nonprofit organizations, whether it's La Casa, ICC, and a few others. To the points that have been addressed here, just so that we are clear, the original master plan would have allowed any developer to build up to 30 stories without any givebacks, concessions to open space, step backs, setbacks, and all of the good stuff that really addresses sustainability and resiliency, and also allowed for more auto uses in that plan. That is eliminated because, as you know, the city council's spoken about this, and the mayor has made it very clear, we want to push for a walkable downtown, have the walkability, have more bike paths. And so, to the point of Councilman Amador, the mayor has already commissioned for us to explore either an impact fee or an infrastructure mitigation fee. One is governed by state statute, the other one you could do locally. So ultimately, you know, we do have a commitment to engage the public more and more, as we did with the riverfront when we had the 3 meetings previously, and also with the recent 2 meetings that were held, and we will continue that commitment because we do value and respect their participation. That's what urban planning is about, and that's what we intend to have moving forward.
Thank you. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
And can I make a comment? Let me just say, and that's the reason that I said I wasn't going to vote for it, but I did, because I trust that you'll keep your word.
Yes, sir.
And make sure that the community is involved moving forward.
Thank you.
Can I make a suggestion? When you address this issue, would you please have a conversation with New Jersey Transit? Because right now, New Jersey Transit has commandeered a lot of that property around Penn Station, where they have their police cars parked, where they have put that terminal and stuff there. So maybe we can even talk to New Jersey Transit about where their buses, instead of idling in the back of Penn Station, maybe we can find a more suitable location so that we can move them up and utilize more of that space for green space, as well as not having them commandeer property. I know the state trumps the city or the county when it comes to making those kinds of deals, but you need to have a real conversation with the possibility of relocating where the New Jersey Transit buses make that loop and come around and go back up towards the legal center. Maybe that will help with some of the congestion, but more importantly, that will help encourage people to utilize the existing Amtrak and New Jersey Transit trains as opposed to just using the buses.
What I'll do is coordinate a meeting with Mr. Leong, who is the director over at NJ Transit, and I would invite you, Councilwoman, to join us and any council member to be a part of that conversation. And just lastly, to Councilman James's point and Councilman McCollum, the purpose in the downtown of revitalizing and truly redeveloping it is so that the development can bleed into the South and West Ward. That's the whole purpose of working on the core of any city. It's to really ensure that it thrives and moves into the other more distressed wards, and that's already happening. So it is effective, and so I thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, next item.
6 PSNFB is a ordinance to amend and supplement Title II Administration, Chapter 7, Department of Finance. This would amend the qualifications and duties of the city treasurer. Is there anyone present that wishes to be heard on this ordinance?
I can't tell yet.
No one.
No one appearing.
No one appearing. Motion to close the public hearing and adopt. Council of the whole?
Roll call, please.
Amador, absent. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Yes.
Phil Jenkins, absent. McCallum.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Quintana.
Yes.
Ramos, absent. President Trump.
Yes.
Resolutions. Resolution 7R8A is a authorizing resolution for the Office of Municipal Council City Clerk to co-sponsor a special event. This is the American Cancer Society Making Strides of Newark Against Breast Cancer, the 5K Walk, on Sunday, October the 15th. Council President Crump is the sponsor.
Is there a second? Second by Councilman Osborne.
Roll call to adopt.
Amador, absent. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Yes.
McCallum.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Yes.
Ramos, absent. President Trump.
Yes.
To the added starter page. 7R1A is a ratifying authorizing resolution for the Department of Administration for the extension of the emergency contract that's provide for lead abatement services to the city of Newark. Madam President, I have been informed by the Department of Child and Family Well-Being that there is an error in this resolution. They have asked that the council amend on the floor the contract period from October 22nd to 2017 through August 14th to October 21st, 2017.
Change it.
We need to change that.
Council as a whole to amend?
Yes.
Roll call.
Yes.
Amador,
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Absent. Cheney Phil Jenkins,
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Quintana.
Yes.
Ramos, absent.
Yes,
And now Council of the whole to adopt as amended.
as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Gonzalez. Roll call.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Trying to fix the printer, and the printer is down.
Absent. McCallum.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Quintana.
Yes.
Ramos, absent. President Trump.
Yes.
7R5A is a authorizing resolution for the Department of Health and Community Wellness for home harmless and indemnification agreement for the Health and Community Wellness 4th Annual Lead Awareness Walk in Military Park. Council of the whole to adopt?
Roll call, please.
Amador,
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
McCallum.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Quintana.
Yes.
Ramos, absent.
Yes. Next item is
7R8B is a authorizing resolution for the Office of Municipal Council City Clerk for hold harmless and indemnification agreement for the Immigration Forum to take place at Rafael Hernandez School on Saturday, October 14, 2017. In the absence of the councilman, Council of the whole to adopt?
roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Absent. McCallum.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
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 Council of the whole to adjourn the voting meeting?
Amador.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
James, absent. Cheney Phil Jenkins, absent. McCallum.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Quintana.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Clerk,
Yes,
unfortunately, it's not unfortunately, I will be out of the country for our next council meeting, and I have some pre-printed motions that I need to have read into the record. Did Kenny give you a copy?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Can somebody come and get this? They're not very long.
Motion from Council President to the Administration, Engineering, Traffic and Signals, Mulberry Street and University Avenue between Raymond Boulevard and Franklin Street. Increase the wattage of the light poles in and around the aforementioned area due to extreme darkness during sundown. You can barely see the streets, the traffic lines, and more importantly, the pedestrians during the dusk to dawn. I have requested that this matter be investigated and resolved several times. Please advise this governing body of the status. Second is from the Council President, wishing the following community activists a speedy and healthy recovery, Ms. Shirley Burns and Mr. Willie Martin. And to the Department of Public Safety, requesting the status on the active shooter drill as well as the fire evacuation drill to be conducted in the following locations: City Hall, 920 Broad Street, Municipal Courts at 31 Green Street, and Department of Health and Community Wellness at 110 William Street. Council of the whole to adopt.
Well, second.
The conference
Is there a second? Somebody
Second.
Thank you, thank you. Roll call
I'm the official seconder.
for today. He's official.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I abstain because I was out of the room.
Yes. Corp Council has asked for an executive session.
Can we?
We don't have to have it.
5
Is that
minutes?
correct?
All right.
Madam
At
President?
5 minutes max.
Can we do Madam President, can we do the conference agenda? Can we do the two items on the conference agenda?
I'm sorry?
Can we do the two items on the conference agenda first?
I wish I. What did he say?
Can we do the two items on the conference agenda first?
I was just about to ask our surrogate judge, what's your time frame?
Council President, I certainly,
I know.
with all the, first of all, good morning, everyone. With all the weighty issues that this council has, certainly I'm not going to try to get in the way of any of that. What I have is just my annual opportunity to come in and say hi to you and tell you what the Surrogates Court is doing. I'm going to leave you some items now, and I'd be happy to come back on another occasion. I do have another engagement, and I just, you all just do too much of the people's business. So believe me, it's my pleasure to see you here and to see what's going on in Newark. So I'll leave the items, if you will, with your permission, and I'll be happy to come back and just explain what we're doing.
Thank you. If Madam Clerk will get from our surrogate, we're always happy to see you. You bring us good news, and you always bring us goodies, information.
Well, and the information.
We appreciate that.
It's my pleasure.
Willing to come back.
Yes, absolutely. There's some
another
pamphlets in there, one for at least everyone, and so I have that information. So if you feel in terms of your deliberations with your constituents that I can come and be helpful, I'd be happy to do that. So
Thank you so much.
my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Mr. Clerk, roll call for executive session. Who is Robert Baylor?
Mr.
Robert Baylor?
Mr. Baylor is from the Conrail.
Mr.
They're here to update the council on a bridge project.
You just want to get rid of this real quick. Gotta run, man. That's not.
Would you like to hear them first?
Mr. Baylor is
Mr. Jim Dowling will be the speaker for Conrail.
How you doing? My name is Robert Baylor. I'm here on behalf of Conrail, project manager for the particular project that we're going to be speaking about. This is Mr. Jim Dowling. He's representing Jacobs, who has been contracted out to do the work on this particular project for Conrail. So Mr. Dowling will be presenting this project for us.
You're asking,
You can't see it over there.
yeah, that's good, I think.
Good morning. My name is Jim Dowling. I'm the Director of Environmental and Transportation Planning with Jacobs Engineers. I'm here today on behalf of Conrail. You met Mr. Baylor. I also have an associate with me who doesn't plan to speak, but if we have additional questions, she's here. Her name is Myra Reese Barbosa. Conrail has a small project they'll be undertaking in the East Ward, so I'm here for informational purposes to provide the council with some information concerning that project and any questions you might have. The project itself is an in-kind replacement of an existing bridge.
Thank you, Tony.
It's an in-kind replacement of an existing bridge known by Conrail as Bridge 3.08. It's in the East Ward, and it's on their Passaic-Harris line. It's located directly north of Route 9, and it's about 1,500 feet south of Raymond Boulevard. The nearest roadway intersection to it would be Roanoke Avenue and Foundry Street. The land uses directly adjacent this existing bridge are industrial in nature. And in fact, it's a rail bridge over an existing rail line, so there's no vehicular roadway running underneath it either. So it's purely a rail area. The existing bridge itself is an open-deck, double-track bridge. It's built in 1901, so it's 116 years old, that bridge. So it's really reaching the end of its useful life, and it's become necessary for Conrail to replace this bridge. It's a very key link.
Can I make a quick statement? I wish I could have you as a spokesman for the East Ward community when we went down to Trenton to ask for more schools, because they were built before, way before this was built, and we said that this is the time for replacement of all the schools because of the fact that they were built before this.
Right. Well, Conrail is moving forward with trying to improve and fix its infrastructure, and it's crucial for them and for the regional economy to advance this project. So it's a 116-year-old bridge. It's at the end of its useful life, so they're going to be creating a new bridge in its place. What they plan to do is remove the existing bridge and put in a new bridge, which will be a ballasted deck girder bridge. It'll be at the same exact elevation, and in fact, it'll use the same abutments. So they don't need to, in fact, there'll be no construction taking place on the ground whatsoever. So it's really an in-kind replacement. The entire project from the award is about 9 months. They expect the notice to proceed in December of 2017. It'll go to bid in the wintertime, and then construction will most likely occur at the beginning of the spring and end prior to 2018. Now, the vast majority of this construction is going to occur off-site. Effectively, what will happen is the bridge will be fabricated, built off-site. It will be brought in via rail, and since Conrail really can't shut down their rail line for very long, there'll be a weekend outage. They'll shut it down for maybe 36 hours, 2 days at most. The bridge will be brought into place, old bridge removed, new bridge put in place, and they'll be back in operation. And it'll effectively, other than looking like a brand new bridge, it's not going to really change anything. It'll be the same capacity. It'll still be used for the same purposes. So it's really an in-kind replacement of this existing bridge, which is reaching the end of its life. There's federal money involved in this, and because of that, we're undertaking the National Environmental Policy Act requirements. We're in the process of preparing a categorical exclusion that looks at potential negative effects related with the implementation of this bridge. The money for this bridge comes through a federal grant program. North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority has reviewed this project, and it's been entered onto their state transportation implementation plan. There are no wetlands, no flood hazard areas, no open waters, no streams, no threatened or endangered species directly adjacent to this bridge replacement that we're planning. Again, as I said, effectively construction will include the mobilization on site, the removal of the existing bridge, the new bridge coming in after it's constructed off-site, lifted in with a crane, and then the old bridge taken away. The contractor will follow all local, state and federal laws. There'll be a health and safety plan, a protection plan in place on the site. And that's effectively the information I'm here to present to you today, and we're happy to engage you in any questions you might have.
Madam.
Yes, certainly. Councilman
Councilman Gonzalez brings up a good point. If you're replacing the bridge itself without touching the foundation, and you see that there's a need to replace the bridge, what about the quality of the foundation?
It's been inspected, and there'll be improvements to the foundation. There'll have to be new plates for mounting the bridge. It'll be repointed, but the foundation is sound.
So there'll be work on site
On the foundation itself, above the ground, right? But there will be there'll be no work underground related to it.
The other, no, it's okay.
Councilman Ramos, Councilman Gonzalez.
Yeah, I just want to ask for the record, do you guys still maintain the inactive rail lines in Newark, or is that now sold to Norfolk Southern?
And the east, kind of be like.
I believe it's Conrail.
Excuse me. Councilman, could you repeat your question?
I was asking them if they still have responsibility for inactive rail lines in Newark, or was were those lines sold off to a different company?
The out-of-service rail lines are still owned by Conrail. We do inspect them, and we are required to maintain them for the safety of
Let me
Newark.
just tell you that you guys are doing a terrible job. There are a number of lines that run through my ward. First of all, from a real estate standpoint, they're just subleasing parcels of this rail to whomever they deem fit without any coordination with the city's planning department. And then secondly, the weeds and grass is out of control, illegal dumping. I could send you pictures. And we've met with different lobbyists and people who supposedly represent Conrail, and we haven't gotten any kind of remediation. And some of these lines run through residential neighborhoods, schools. So, as you're here trying to pitch this much-needed project in the East Ward, I would ask for you to go back to your folks and tell them to clean up these lines.
As a matter of fact, do you have any business cards while you're here?
Yeah, I'll go one step further. Who should we be contacting regarding local issues with Conrail property?
So Conrail has a 24/7 trouble desk, as we would call it, that we are.
We want a person.
Well, no, any issues you want to report go to them, and then they distribute it to the appropriate departments. So
no, they distribute it to a black abyss. What we're trying to do is find the bottom of the pit. Okay.
Is the
so
contact?
is there somebody? Do you have a business card?
No, but it's not these guys. It's somebody else.
Yeah, but
Is the name?
if you
is
call
the name?
him,
Does the
then he's
name
gonna give you
John
the name
Leon
you need to
sound
speak to.
familiar?
I'm sorry,
Does the name John Leon sound familiar?
it does not.
Well, he's the contact with Conrail, I think, or New Jersey Transit, one of those.
So you have no direct
All alike. They're all
line
alike.
for municipalities?
Pardon me?
You have no direct line for municipalities?
You have an intergovernmental agency.
No, I'm
liaison?
responsible for Conrail's Bridges and Buildings Department. That's what I oversee.
Mr. Clerk.
So who does the tracks?
We have another track department that takes care of the tracks.
Okay, so do you know who that person is?
I do.
Can you share it, or is that top secret?
That's the name.
I don't understand why you're acting like you don't want to give us
Release the
the
name.
information.
Well, I can give you my business card, and I can get you in
That's
touch
what
with
I asked
anybody you would
you.
like.
You have a business card?
I do.
Release the name.
Yeah, 300,000 people are going to be calling you.
Madam Clerk, before he changes his mind, quickly get 9,
Where's the
10
business card?
Madam President?
10.
Madam President.
Yes, I'm sorry, Councilman.
Post that on Facebook.
I remember a while back, Councilman Ramos and Senator Teresa Ruiz, they were, a matter of fact, Congressman Albio Series was, who's the Democrat who sits on the Transportation Committee, came out to, with Councilman Ramos and the Senator at the time I was there too that day, and One of the things we should do is extract anything that's being said and get a copy to Congressman Siri's office and our concerns, because he is a member of Congress who, matter of fact, where the rail, where you're talking about, that's his district as a congressional member. And the north part of the city is part of the his district too. So again, I'd like to have all that has been said, extract all concerns on the council and send it to Congressman Albio Series, who's a member of Transportation.
If you guys get a chance, since you're in town today, it takes 10 minutes, go to Summer Verona Avenue, and you will see the unused rail lines. You'll see people have erected temporary fences, are storing building materials and all kinds of things on the rail lines. So whoever's supposed to be checking them, I guess hasn't been there lately because it's turned into a flea market.
Yep.
Summer Verona Avenue.
Does the name Delancey Street ring a bell?
Does.
What can you tell me about Delancey Street?
The bridge over it.
As far as
State Street?
As far as the bridge, the raising of the bridge, and the enlargement of the street.
that bridge does not belong to Conrail.
What did he say?
It's the same bridge. It's the same line.
I'm sorry, how far is it from this bridge?
Probably a mile and a half. And it's the continuation of this line.
Okay, well, I'm not aware of any raise.
But you said it rings a bell, so what do you know about Delancey Street?
If physically Conrail's bridge, I'm sorry, but I don't know about raising of the bridge.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, you're going to make copies, right?
So as far as Bridge 308, I think we're finished with the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're not finished with you, though.
Yeah. We're just beginning.
Just kidding.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any citizens? All right.
Before we leave, can we send a reminder to the administration that the contaminated site of the Ironbound Stadium is open and there's people going in there right now. So if anybody can go there from the administration and lock it up again.
And then they can give you back the original.
Oh, she's going to make copies.
Can I make a quick
Yes.
And last thing, I want to publicly thank Victor Cirillo, the new NHA director. Asked him about Maple Avenue schools have been abandoned for some time. Kids have been going in and out. I asked him to secure the facility, and he reached out immediately to his staff. They put up new fencing, and they boarded up doors so the kids can't get in there and get into God knows what.
Absolutely. Very good. Councilman McCallum.
Let's have a quick announcement. Saturday is the North Jersey Veterans Stand Down at JFK from 8:30 till 3 o'clock. All are welcome, but we're dealing with the homeless veterans, giving them clothes and haircuts and feeding them, and for the day, just having a good time. Saturday, JFK. Me and my colleagues will be there.
Yes. Speaking of stand down, Cleo Tucker, Assemblywoman Cleo Tucker had emergency surgery. She's home recuperating. So those of us who know her, call her, send her a card.
Oh, okay.
She's doing better. She was at ShopRite the other day, and so, but she's walking very slowly.
Yeah, she's actually one of the committee chairmen.
Yes.
On the stand-down committee.
Yes.
So, Mr. Clerk, roll call for executive session.
Oh, before that,
He says
the
5
breast
minutes.
cancer
okay.
awareness walk is this Sunday at Championship Plaza Prudential Center. And we're asking everyone to make sure that they come out, men and women, children, and make sure that they support the walk for breast cancer awareness.
And the health department's lead awareness walk is tomorrow at Military Park at 9:30.
Any other announcements? So,
Roll call for executive session?
Mr. Clerk?
Roll call.
So,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going into an executive session. I ask that if you are not part of the discussion that will follow, that you please step out into the hall.